Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. Guys, listen, you know how we roll on this show. You know who I am. I am Melvin Casey Lars, your host on the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. This evening, we have a special Father's Day program for you. We have three distinguished gentlemen with us this evening. One's already here in the person of Mr. Byron Lyons, and we'll be telling you a lot about Mr. Lyons. We also have coming in Mr. Reggie Coppicus, who is from Toronto, Canada. He'll be in as well talking with us. And we also have Roland Harper, former NFL player for the Chicago Bears, played 8 years for the Bears, Brian Piccolo Award winner, etc. However, both these gentlemen right now are working to come to the set. So we certainly do not want to waste time asking you to wait on anyone. Of course, it's not necessary. We have a dynamic guest that's already here, and all the other guys are dynamic. And we're going to get started introducing Mr. Lyons. And we have to introduce him all anyway. Now, first of all, Byron is a Louisiana native. He grew up and attended primary schools in Ruston and Grambling State University School as a valedictorian of class 1986. See, guys, we always tell you guys, we deal with brains. We're not just all broad. We want you guys to understand that. Now, Byron achieved numerous academic and athletic awards while in school and upon graduation. He attended Texas Southern University on a full athletic scholarship as a football player. Now, I have to say that we do want you guys to understand that this conversation tonight, of course, is not limited to dads, but since it is a Father's Day program, we just wanted our dads to be here, and our other two gentlemen are coming with us. Now, Byron, after graduating from Texas Southern with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and Accounting, he excelled in football and has several offers to play in the NFL. Like with many of us, sometimes those things don't pan out for various reasons due to injuries and that kind of thing. Many times due to numbers. Byron returned to his high school alma mater as he was also a classroom teacher. He was a coach. Byron now, has been in the field of education for 27 years, ladies and gentlemen. He has touched young lives in Louisiana, Michigan, and Ohio. He's a certified superintendent, has held educational certifications in 5 states, and has worked in 8 different middle schools and or high schools, successfully transforming students' lives, building school cultures, and enhancing school systems. Now, he has served as principal of 2 specialty schools, a mentor to teachers and administrators, a foreign exchange teacher host, and a central office administrator. He currently holds education certifications in 3 states, and most recently spent 6 years as the human resource director for an inner city urban school district in Ohio. Now, after his recent marriage to his lovely wife, he has taken time off to complete his dissertation for his doctorate in education leadership from Concordia University in Chicago. He believes that education is the key to success for all students. And there's so many other things here. Byron is rolling through. Byron recently married to the love of his life, Mrs. Brittany Clark Lyons. She's also a Louisiana native. The couple resides in Tallahassee, Florida, where Brittany serves on the front lines as a medical doctor. They recently welcomed their first bundle of joy, Mr. Braden David Lyons, on May 18, 2020. So see, Byron's a new dad, guys, so you'll get to hear perspective from a new dad. Now, our veteran dad, Mr. Reg Coppicus, who will be joining us momentarily, he's been a leadership mentor for over 35 years. He works diligently with harassment and racism prevention, and he does that. He's been doing that for over 20 years. He focuses on diversity, inclusion, integration, and acceptance, conflict management, alternative disposition, and resolutions. Now, diversity is a metric, inclusion is the goal, leadership is the key, belonging, acceptance, and safety are the paths. Now, as for Mr. Coppicus, will be talking with us. Mr. Coppicus has a blended family. Many times people talk about step this and step that, but we affectionately call it a blended family. And we've already shared with you about Mr. Roland Harper. Mr. Roland Harper, guys, is Louisiana native as well. Roland served 8 years in the NFL, played his college ball at Louisiana Tech University. He's a Brian Piccolo Award. Now, those winners, you guys that don't know about Brian Piccolo, if you watch Brian's song, there was a situation where you had guys playing football. One had cancer. Gail Sayers was supposed to be the man, and he and Brian worked closely together. Unfortunately, cancer did claim the life of Brian Piccolo, and that award goes to an individual that has not only dedicated himself to the game, but has dedicated himself to his teammates, to the community, to his family, etc. and then that person is Mr. Roland Harper. And he is having some technical difficulties. We are working to get Mr. Harper on. He will be on before we finish this show, as well as Mr. Reg Coppicus. But right now, we'll be talking to the new dad, Mr. Byron Lyons. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Listen, I can't complain, Byron. Just let me say it's a pleasure having you here. And we know for the and you might want to tell us, is this going to be your first Father's Day officially?
This will be my first official Father's Day.
And how does that make you feel, sir?
I'm a proud papa, boss man. For everybody, I call him boss man. He's my mentor. One of my mentors. So, Mr. Laws has been a great influence on my life. So, when he sent for me and we went to Michigan, I call him boss man. So I practiced on saying Mr. Laws, but
no problem.
In the end, I'm going to eventually be saying boss man. So, that's my name. But I'm so proud, boss man. I spent so many years in education, taking care. My goal and God's goal for my life was to, take care of the kids, in education. So, I spent so many years in education, caring for the kids, and to actually get a chance to meet the love of my life, and to have her aboard, and then for us to have our bundle of joy. It's just a great feeling, man. I mean, I just it's unlike anything else that I've ever felt. And I know that a lot of the guys from teaching, from coaching, from being an administrator, how much I care for those guys and girls, and wanted to make sure they progressed in life and became all that they could be, so that, to have my very own, it's such a blessing, and I thank God for that.
Mr. Perry Myles is a great man in his own right. We're going to have him on as well. But listen, we are going to move the show forward. We want to say thanks very much for Brittany being here, is out here, and Ronnie. Very happy to see you along with Mr. Myles. Talk about fatherhood. Now we know there are a lot of things about, people say, well, they're not a dad, they're a father, and we give so many definitions to that end. Now, recently on my show, 3 weeks ago, I had on my show Mr. Guy Bryant. Now, Mr. Guy Bryant was on Good Morning America with our alma mater guy, excuse me, Michael Strahan. And Mr. Bryant has been a dad over the last 12 years to over 50 young men and women as a foster dad. Okay. And when we talked about the progress in the process and the dreams that he have for those young men and women that he's mentoring. Now, with you being a young father, while we're waiting on our veteran dads to get here, I would imagine that there are a lot of things that's going through your head as it relates to your son. And with your son being a newborn and all of the things that's happening right now in our present time, everybody's all up in arms about George Floyd and about police brutality and that kind of thing. Have you had enough time really to just process in your mind, what kind of things would you like to see happen for your son?
Well, actually, I first, because of the whole pandemic from the virus, this is actually a great time for us. I look at that as a blessing because we're sheltered in place. That is allowing us, to, kind of, grow him, learn him, love on him. And, that's just been a complete blessing just to take in that complete blessing of him being with us. I do look at, the plight of what we're in right now. And, I'm concerned, of course, you know, of course, as Black men in America, and as a history teacher, social studies teacher, reflecting on the 400 years and everything that, that we've gone through here, and now, what he's going to have to deal with, so I'm very concerned because we are at a pivotal time right now, to where this thing could sway, in our betterment, or it could not. So I'm really paying attention, not being able to get on the front lines, not being able to get out because, I want to make sure that I take care of my family. But I'm actually paying attention to all of the news media about what's going on, and then what I need to do because, for like I said, for years, it's just been me. I've been taking care of other people's kids, but now, I have a wife, I have a son, so I have to be on the front lines to make sure that he's taken care of, she's taken care of. So it's a fluid motion. I'm watching, I'm looking, how I can help, what's going on to make sure that, as he comes out, it's going to be something to have conversation with him later on, being born in the midst of a pandemic, a couple of pandemics. You're talking about the virus and you're talking about, racism. So, all of that is going to be pivotal coming back around. We've dealt with this, a number of times, in America. So now, this seems to be one of those times that we may be able to make some type of change in what's going on for the future of, the young ones coming up. And I hope that, Braden will definitely be the beneficiary of some of the change that we can make right now.
It's a very dire time, and with you being a young dad, and I see our friend, our buddy, Mr. Myles has jumped on and joined us here. How are you, sir? How you doing, okay, sir?
You always been my boss, and you've been bossing me around, so I'm doing fine.
Listen,
y'all, glad to see you, man. Glad to see you.
Listen, brother, is glad to see you. Now, Brother Myles, since you've been so kind to join us before Brother Coppicus gets here, let me ask you a question, my friend. Now, you've heard Byron share and his information and talk about being a new dad with all the craziness going on, and we know that you have Mr. PJ, who is a better athlete than you, but we won't even go. We won't even go there, Byron.
I can live with that. I can live with that.
What kind of I know a lot of times we as men laugh and talk about things, but I mean the serious part of it, when you think about PJ, what is it that you would really like to see PJ do and accomplish?
Well, as you know, we all love our kids, so I'd like to see him become a father. I asked him about playing ball. He had a scholarship to go play football. And I said, son, don't play college ball because your dad played. Play because that's what you want to do. Well, he wanted to be a lawyer. And I said, well, get on that pace. He said, well, Dad, I want to be an FBI agent. I say, son, have you ever shot a gun? No. I said, well, go get trained. So he joined the Air Force. And he's an Air Force National Guard member, and he's just signed up to go to LSU. And that's what I want. I want him to see his future, a bright future, a black man in America that can rise to the top. He said he wanted to be an FBI agent, and that's what I see him being someday. And I have made my sacrifice to make sure that he has the opportunity to be what he want to be. And sometimes in America, as a young kid, a young black boy, you don't see yourself being in such a position. But I made sure he understood that the sacrifices that your daddy make and your daddy friends make and people like the people that I work with, we made those sacrifices so that you can have whatever you want in life. And there's no doubt in my mind he's gonna soar to the top. He finished number 2 in his class in the Air Force National Guard part of it, and out of all the young men that was over 800 young men there, he got voted to be the one to represent his unit that came in number 1. So he's
fantastic.
He's a natural leader. So I no doubt see he's gonna do, soar to the top and be what he want to be.
Yeah.
Great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and Roland, let me say this. the guys know this already, but I have some other monitors up here, man. And when you appeared on the screen, thumbs and stuff start going crazy. So we are happy. We are happy. Not that we are not happy that Byron is here. Not that we're not happy that Perry is here, but we are happy that you're here, Mr. Harper. And I have given our audience, and we still have people clicking in, by the way. We still have people clicking in. I've given them some insight as to who you are. And but what I did not tell them, Roland, is that many times people do not have the opportunity to meet gentlemen that have been blessed to have been in the spotlight and that kind of thing. And they don't have the opportunity to understand that one of the most important things about those people is that if you did not know that they were in the spotlight, you would never know, because they're very humble, loving, and caring. And that's what my audience needs to know about Roland Harper. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. I've got kind of a delayed reaction to your voice, and it's kind of like coming to me afterwards. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but it's happy to be here.
Listen, you are coming through loud and clear, and we're happy that you're here. I was asking the gentleman, now I know from the conversations, Roland, that you and I have had in the past, is that I know, that you had and we don't talk about, and we don't call stepsons and all of that. I know there's a special needs son in your life at one point, and I know you have sons. You know, when you as a responsible dad make concessions for children, doesn't have to be the son, make concessions for children, what is it in you that causes you to want to stand firm and do what you feel is your call to do when it comes to looking out for your children? Mr. Harper?
Well, I'm going to say this, is that with all of us, it's our responsibility to help raise our children. There's a lot of times that fathers are not there in their lives, and Calvin is my stepson, but he's my son. Even though he has special needs, he has love in his heart too. Now, his father wasn't in his life, and his mother I married, so he became my son. And the way that I see it is that we all have responsibilities to take care of our children, regardless of if they're ours by natural or other circumstances. And to me, all the kids are our responsibility, especially all of our Black kids. You know, even if you know someone in the family or in the neighborhood that is a single mother, try to take some interest and look out for the neighborhoods. Kind of like we were raised that way in our days. It took the village to raise us all because we were all bad. So it's kind of like one of those things that, you know, we do the same thing. You know, we take responsibilities and try to help all the kids, regardless.
While we're talking to the dads, man, I would like to ask Mr. Harper to share. Now, Roland, you were on one interview, and you were talking about the day you outgained Walter Payton. Now, you know I watched the highlights, and you know I watched that game. So as we talk about the dads and how, and I have a lot of young people up here, you know, tell us about the day you outgained the great Walter Payton.
Well, you know, Walter was a very, I guess you can say, intense competitor. And the thing of it is that I knew that when coming into the NFL, that I would have to do what I did at Louisiana Tech. Mm-hmm. There was nobody in the league better at blocking than I was. Mm-hmm. So as far as blocking, I knew that I could do that well, but they didn't know I could run until the one game that it really counted. They were all keying on Walter, and they gave me the ball, and I did what I did best, as you remember, Chief, from high school. I ran.
Hey. Listen, I've got to tell our audience about this one. I got to tell our audience about this one. I was playing at Airline High School, and Bull was playing at Captain Shreve. And, you know, everybody knew that we had to stop Bull. And, you know, with me being alleged, you know, one of the better defensive linemen, then, you know, I'm going to show Bull how to eat the cabbage, right? So I lined up, I destroyed Bull's offensive line, and here comes Bull. And I hit Bull, and I was telling him, he didn't even know this. I hit Bull, man, and this cat was running so hard until I don't know if I got my finger caught on his helmet or what, but he took a piece of me with him. You notice I said he took a piece of me with him on that play. But hey man, listen. I know the kind of athlete that you are. I know that's the kind of dad you are, and the whole nine. And you know, as we talk about dads in general, as you were coming on, Byron, the young man to your left, is a new dad, and he was talking about the things that he see and want to see transpire for his son. And I think you heard Mr. Myles as he was talking about PJ, and probably before you came on, I was messing with him about PJ being a better athlete. But obviously, I'd like for the three of you to answer this question, and it doesn't matter who goes first, but when we think of rearing boys, because in particular, the world is always talking about boys and girls coming up in single parent homes. When we use the word parent, do you as dads, do you feel that it's extremely important for the dad to be there and to have a part? Or is it just for dad to be there? Is really my question. Because there's a lot of controversy about that as well. I don't care who starts first.
Okay. One of you guys should start first.
Okay, let the newbie start.
The newbie, Byron.
Yes. So I'm gonna speak on that, just based on my years in education. You know, I got an education. You know, of course, you know, I think it was a calling on my life. And so me growing up, I think that I really missed some counsel in certain parts of my life. Nothing that I want to change, because, you know, God has, you know, done what he's done in my life. But growing up, you know, I think that there was some counsel that was missed in key times in my life, that when I got an education, you know, first of all as a coach, you know, and then next as a teacher, because that was my transition in education. You know, I graduated in accounting, you know, but I was, you know, asked to come, you know, be a coach. And, you know, and so as ex-football players or ex-players, period, we know the influence that coaches have, you know, young men's lives. So, you know, so that was my entrance in education, as a coach, then a teacher, then an administrator. So my purpose was to make sure that these students or these kids, you know, they had their plan A. You know, you talk to kids, you know, I want to be this, I want to be a basketball player, I want to be a football player, I want to be this, but nothing after that. So I wanted to make sure they had a plan B through Z, you know, because when life knocks you down, what are you going to do? You know, so I said it to say, you know, as a coach, you know, and Myles was there in my young coaching days, you know, we had a lot of parents, single parents, you know, and, you know, I think that sometimes the coaches and those men in your neighborhoods and those men in your community stand in the stead, you know, and, you know, it's like a village, you know, it takes a village, you know, and then and kids look to those guys. You know, I looked at my coaches, you know, as father figures. You know, and I think we don't harp on the fact of who's not there. You know, I grew up, you know, and my parents were divorced when I was 6 years old, you know, and so I grew up without my father, you know, and you know, we have a great relationship now. You know, my father, you know, told me he loved me for the first time when I was 34 years old. You know, so you know, it took, you 34. Know, the whole. I was 34 when I first.
Well, hey, man, you're only 27 now, so how does that work?
so I mean, I know the importance, but, you know, in the midst of, you know, my grandfather reared me, My grandfather was a very strong man in Ruston, one of the first black businessmen in Ruston. Didn't talk a lot. My grandfather led by service. He showed you what you should be doing.
Yes.
Then I had a neighborhood father, was Cleo Anders, who was a principal. And then, I had Cisco McCarty, who was a principal. So, there's a lot of people, along with my coaches, Coach Cowan, my cousin who was, Coach Lyons, was assistant principal and the coach at Grambling High. So it's a lot of people.
Yeah, Coach Michael Lyons.
Yeah, Coach Michael Lyons,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, who you gravitate to, who stand in the stead. So, and so as I became a coach, I would tell the parents, especially the mothers, look to me, use me to help you with him, to make sure we get him the way he needs to go. And so even in the absence of, I know sometimes parents get kind of, a little angry, because, maybe some of those, kids or fathers are not doing what they're supposed to do, but you have to gravitate to some of the people who are there, and then, especially when the kids were looking up to us. I mean, I can speak especially, between me and Myles, kids were looking up to us, so don't take us away. His grades are bad. He's doing bad in school. Well, he loves football. I'm going to take it away. We weren't coaches like that. Now, look to us. Let me do what I need to do on the field.
Right.
I promise you, he's going to be all right when he come home.
Right.
And he's going to do what he needs to do. So once we, I wanted to be that person that, other people had been to me. And so even now, but I do know, before I go, with my son, I think it was just a blessing, any father should be there from beginning to end, and I have enjoyed this journey. I mean, it has been such a joy, from the living room, seeing him enter to this realm, take his first breath here, and just seeing him right now, develop and grow, it's such a joy that, I definitely, taking some of the things that, I've dealt with and some of the, the person I've been for other people. And I definitely want to be that for him and more.
Yeah.
But so I mean, that's
exactly.
Brother Harper.
Well, I'm going to say like this. My boys now, I have twin boys. They're 44 now. And for a while, the early part of their years, their mother and I were married, and she decided she wanted something different. And I let her have it. And we got divorced. For the longest time, she wouldn't let me see the kids. And I've gone through courts and everything else and got all that paperwork done. And she was supposed to, but she didn't. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And she didn't. But the thing of it is, you got to keep fighting as a father.
Mm-hmm.
Because, first of all, I'm a man of Christ. And that's first. He's the head of me. So I've got to be the head of my family. Even though we were divorced, I'm still fighting for them. Now we have a beautiful relationship. I get a phone call from them every day. So although the devil tried to do what they do, and that's happening all through our neighborhoods, the devil is always there. But what we do as men is raise our kids to have some part of their lives, because these kids that are in jail, a lot of the fathers are not there because they don't care. They want to be a baby maker, but not a dad. You understand? You know what I mean? You as a young man now with a newborn, you're doing the right thing. You mentioned coaching. It's the best thing that we could have had because that taught us a lot. My father worked all the time, but he was a coach. He was my coach. And by telling me that I could do anything that I wanted to do as long as I worked hard at doing it. But education, it's like you said, is the key. They can't take that away from you.
You're right.
We are natural athletes. That's all we are, natural athletes. We were born naturally to be an athlete. in anything that we do. Once we put our mind to it, we can do it all. But the biggest thing is the education. Now, I preach that to my kids, and they're all graduated and grown and on their own, which is a great thing because, my food bill has gone down a lot. When boys, yeah. And they are bigger than I am. So, but the thing of it is that when you set your mind to do something as a parent and as a father, then it is the best thing in the world for you to succeed because God has succeeded in making us who we are.
Yes.
And if you don't put him first,
absolutely,
nothing you can do is going to be yours.
True. That's true.
That's.
I mean, before we go to Brother Myles, let me ask Mr. Harper this question, man. Now I've heard him say on more than one occasion when he's talking about playing professional ball that he just wanted to make sure he made more money than his dad. So since we're talking about dads and the influence that dads have on us, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, let me just say like this. Any money that I made in the NFL was more than my dad.
Okay.
Because it wasn't the type of money these guys are getting today.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you this. My first year, I was a 17-round draft choice. Mm-hmm. Out of 442 players, I was 420 picked. So I was a walk-on. My first contract was $17,000. That was more than what my dad had made. So, okay. So after that, then I did get another contract, but it wasn't nowhere near what these guys have today. Mm-hmm. Now,
absolutely,
$175,000 was my largest contract, and these guys carry that in their pockets.
Yeah. And you're
now,
right.
It's pocket change.
Right.
Yeah. But the problem that they have that we didn't have, we played with our heart. Mm-hmm. We signed a contract, we played that contract, and we played with our heart because we love the game. We're going to do the best that we can with what we had. But now, fortunately, my days ended, time to go. Now I've got to get out into the business world and do what I have to do. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mr. Myles, you opened the show by sharing with us about PJ and the 800 guys that he was competing against and him being representing those gentlemen, etc. As a dad, Byron mentioned that he and his father told him he loved him for the first time at 34, and his parents divorced when he was 6. I was born out of wedlock, and my father and I didn't even start a relationship until I was like about 15 years old. So as a dad, when you've had the opportunity to be there every step of the way with PJ, can you share maybe some of the challenges, the ups and downs that occurred, maybe some fears that you had, and some of the times that, you've talked about the happy times, but can you share with us maybe some fears that you had from being there with PJ from day one and seeing him develop into the man that you're proud of today?
Absolutely. I'm very, very proud first to be a dad. Especially I have 3 daughters and I have 2 sons. My oldest son is 35. And I didn't personally raise him. His mother did a wonderful job. And the man that she was married to did a wonderful job. And I became very active in his life when he turned 16 because she started to give her a little trouble. And so she allowed me to get into his life. And he owns his own trucking company now. And his name is DeMar Briscoe. All right. So he's very successful. He lives in Houston and drives cross country. He calls me Pops, so it makes me feel a little old, but I am old.
It makes you feel?
All right. Yeah. Yeah. But going through some of the things with PJ, I was very fortunate to also coach him coming up and being a small kid. I saw him develop from the age of about 5 or 6 years old, trying to get into tackle football, and being the smallest person on the field, getting ran over, crying, and going through all these heartaches. But I encouraged him, son, you just keep getting better. You keep pushing, doing those push-ups. You're going to find out that all these big guys that you've been going against going to get tired of you taking out a knee. And he persevered, and that was what I saw in him, his struggle. Size didn't matter. He wanted to be the best. He worked hard every day in practice. When he got home, he would do the extra things that I told him to do. I worried and wondered what would happen to him, because he was taking on guys that, hey, good guys that, NFL prospects to be. And but he stayed with it, and it became in his school. His high school was they have an award for the best athlete in the school, and he won that award. He played football, he played basketball. He started 4 years in basketball, and he ran track. He started in the hurdles, and he lost every race when he first started.
Okay.
But his senior year, he went to state, and placed in the hurdles in state his senior year. So he's just an all around athlete, an all around person that was very joyful to see him grow up. Now, some of the things that I worried about, I was his principal, so I didn't want people to treat him where he was untouchable, but I also didn't want people to treat him bad because, hey, you your daddy's son, you think you bad because you the principal's son, and so he had to toe the line, because how can I tell 1,200 students how to act and how to do if my son one of the ones that's acting up,
right?
So and that's the kind of thing I remember about him. If I knew trouble was happening and PJ was near, I'd see him walking toward me, because he knew how to separate himself from trouble. Good. And that's all I told him. I say, son, let me tell you something. Life is gonna come at you, but you're gonna have to learn how to separate yourself. And those are the things that I worried about. Him separating himself. And let's face it, he's a handsome young man. He looks just like his father. And I told him, I say, son, you are in a unique position that people are gonna like you, not because you a great athlete, but hey, you're a good looking man. So you got to be careful. I cannot afford you getting involved in something, and the next thing you know, here you are, got somebody pregnant, you causing problems that is gonna make our name look bad, And that's the one thing that my daddy instilled in me. As son, he say, son, I can't give you nothing other than your last name. He say the Myles name means something. Say when people go around and mention your name, make sure that they talk good about it. He said, that's what I want you to understand from me. When I went around my little hometown of Winfield, Louisiana, when people said something about Chester Myles and they called him Peter, it was about good stuff, about how he made an impact on his community. And that's what I wanted to do in the communities that I serve. And that's what I asked my son to do, to make a good name for yourself and keep it. That Myles name got to mean something everywhere you go. When people speak of you, let it be good, and like I say, you never had a physical fight, because I did all the physical fights for you. You ain't got to fight physically, but now mentally, you're the one gonna have to take on that reign. And and I worry about that, because hey, you buy him a car, fall asleep. He fell asleep on the interstate, you know, and could have killed himself, could have killed somebody. Those are the kind of things that worries me. And I tell him, I say, son, I know you're 20 years old. I kind of figure you're active by now. I say, but I can't have you out there sleeping with some young lady and not being responsible. So I worry if somebody pull you over, and you know, in this day and age, my son is a nice looking young man, but he don't just date black women.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right, so all right, so but I can't, you know, we live in a place that you get pulled over, you got the wrong color in the car, something else might happen to you. So those are the kind of things that I worry about with him. But as far as him towing the line and doing the right thing, he's gonna do because you know he has that last name. He's got to support that last name, you know. And I do want to mention some other men that made sure I made it. You know, my dad was like you, Brother Harper. My dad worked 3 jobs. He never came to a football game, a baseball game, a basketball game. He didn't have time. He was working. But there were other men in my life. My brother-in-law, Jewel Cunningham, he supported me. He wore my jersey on Friday nights that the fathers would wear. He did that. I'd like to mention my 3 older brothers. They made sure. Now, they were knuckleheads. They were bad as I don't know what. But they made sure I stayed out of trouble. You know, so and that's my brother Donnie Ray. He's passed away. And my brother Larry and my brother Chester. They're fathers themselves, and they made sure that I stayed out of trouble, you know. So I'd like to publicly thank them, and you know, for what they put in my life, you know. So I didn't want to leave that out. And I'd like to thank my 8th grade football coach, Mike Boyce, kicked me in my behind and knocked me to the ground. He was 6'6". He played tight end in the NFL, and he saw me acting a fool one day. And he literally came up behind me and kicked me right in the crack and knocked me to the ground. And he told me that day, he said, son, every day I see you, I'm going to kick your behind. He ain't say behind if I see you doing something wrong. And I either had to face him and try to fight a 6'6" guy that played in the NFL or try to start doing the right thing.
Byron was talking about his dad at 34 telling him that the first time he told him he loved him. I was telling you that my dad didn't start a relationship, and I didn't really start a relationship until I was like 15. Mike, Reg, glad you're here, brother. Just jump right in.
Thank you.
We are finishing up some things. But listen, the question I want to ask you guys, because we have ladies on with us, and that's great. And we have a lot of young ladies on with us, that's great. And I'm not pushing my book, but in my last book called Mothers in Their Men, an introspective look at mothers rearing their sons, I have a chapter in there called Dad's in the House, but He's Not Home. So with all of us being men and all of us having the responsibility of not only rearing young men and young women, and Byron alluded to it as he talked about being a coach, and Perry talked about it as he talked about the guy kicking him in the rear, and Mr. Harper talked about it, Roland Harper talked about it as working with his special needs son and his 2 sons, etc. And Reg is just jumping on. But what advice, or what would you say to the women who may be dealing with a situation where dad's in the house, but he's not contributing to the rearing of the children?
There's a conversation that has to be had. There's a list of expectations and partnership to do this together that has to be actually laid out very clearly. And we've had that conversation. So I've been married. I was married once before, and I married again. Fool, but you know, however it goes. And my wife currently, we sat down and had some conversations, and she let me know when there was times that we weren't on track together, and that was good, because when you're talking about kids, there are certain things you just simply have to have consistent message on. So we had to make sure there's consistent message. And then there were times when I'd be mad and I'd fly off the handle, and then she'd rein me in fast, and we'd have a talk about it. And she would say, okay, what example are you setting for the kid? Do you mean to say it that way? You really owe him an apology. And of course, I'm the dad. I like to, but then I think about it and I realize, okay, I said something in a way that didn't have to be said. So when I go on, and then I'm showing him the example, okay, I said this and I apologize for it because I didn't have to say that. I didn't have to say it that way. And this is what we need, because kids are looking for that example. And if they don't get it from you, they're going to get it from someone else because they want to know. They're asking. So they're going to get it in the movies. They're going to talk to their friends. They're going to talk to guys down the street. And you don't know who they're talking to necessarily. Guys at school, maybe they're not good guys. Look, they might get advice that is counter to what you would say, but you haven't said it. You haven't been there to say it. So they're going to take that in. They are always watching. They're watching your example. You will teach your kids how to act, and you will teach your kids how to interact with other people. You'll teach boys how they can expect to deal with other people in the world, and you'll teach girls how they can expect to be treated. And you've got to be careful with those examples.
I think that, even before you introduce kids, effective communication has to be one of the main areas of the relationship. That's even before kids. Like, we even talk about kids, between a man and a woman in the house. You have to know how to communicate, good and bad, and then learn the expectations of each other, during some of what we call the hard times, the silent times. For men, a lot of times, we go silent because we need to process. I think communication is very key. But there's a phrase that says, "House divided will fall." So you definitely can't let one parent say one thing, another parent said another thing, and then you create confusion and divisiveness within the family, and that causes confusion. So I think that the key thing is communication, be on one accord. What are the goals that we're setting, for the child? What do we want? Who's the disciplinarian? What's the discipline? Some people are old school, some people are not. I've dealt with a lot of single parent mothers, that said, well, my mother was hard on me, so I'm just going to be my kid's friend. And I told them, I said, you setting yourself up for failure. I said, and I tell a lot of mothers, I said, no, you're gonna either rear somebody's dream or you're gonna rear somebody's nightmare. I said, you decide. I said, you can't give them everything they want. You can't let them do everything they want. There has to be, a time where you assume the responsibility of being a parent, and then you have to look for the end goal in mind and not just go through the process of, I just want to get them everything they want, everything, at the door. You can't stop them from falling. You can't stop them from, busting their knee open. You can't stop them from stomping their toe. That's part of life. You just have to be there, and they have to go through their own experiences, and you have to be the parent and be able to catch the fall and be able to guide them, into further, adulthood or childhood or, wherever they go in their life.
Well, I'm going to say this. I agree with all of that, and I'm going to say one more. The communication is the key. Starting from day one with each and every kid and that partner of yours. Mm-hmm. If you don't communicate what you're going to do or how you're going to do or raise a kid or discipline the kid, then you shouldn't have a kid. I'm just going to say that. Now, there are mothers out there that thought they had the right man, or a man that thought he had the right woman, and it didn't work out. But if you got involved, you have to be able to be an adult. Any situation that comes up, you have to have a calm mind. Calm down. Don't do anything hastily, because that leads to nothing. It's like when my kids came back, it was probably, when they were in their their late teens, early 20s, I couldn't just jump right in and do anything. I had to talk to them, communicate, and that's what I did. So now it's a matter of them understanding how I am, how I'd like for them to be, and when they have their kids, which one of them do, or two of them do, they're raising their kids. You can't just jump into a situation and say, okay, well, I'm the man, because you know what? You may not be the man. And then the other man that's in his life may be the man that he's following. And that man may be telling him not to listen to you, but then there's a trust factor that you can build in each and every person, regardless of what situation you may, as long as you communicate. So that's my take.
And to build on that, and you're correct, sir, and the way you communicate, they'll also take that in, and that'll be their example going forward. It's just when counselors will tell you, people that grew up in an abusive household learn how to be abusers because that's the only example they have. It's a bad example, but that's what they learn. So if you can give a positive example, they will take that in. They'll still make bad decisions, but they'll take that in.
Yes. And the other thing is that we have to be there for them. The other thing is we have to be there for them. We have to, hopefully lead them in the right way, give them that example that they need to look at, and then they'll hopefully do the right things. But then too, if you're there, a true dad, you will follow through on that and help them through it.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And actually, I'm glad Reg mentioned that, because that's our last question before we close the show, and that's about domestic violence. Now, I let me go on record just to say to everybody here is that I am definitely opposed to domestic violence. I'm speaking for me. I know I've heard a lot of men say and give reasons as to why they involve themselves in that facet of their relationships. But my question is, as a father, how do you, as we talk about instilling things in our sons and our daughters and giving them direction and that type thing, how do you respond if either your daughter or your son happens to be in an unfortunate situation where they are involved in a relationship that sadly or unfortunately includes domestic violence? How do you respond as a dad?
That's a hard one, because now you're talking about your child has fallen into a situation you never wanted them to have happen to them. So you got to have some conversations to try and get them to understand, where are you in your life and how did you get to this point? Which part of it do you own? Because it's not all yours, but you got part of it. And which part is them? And what do you want to do about that? And try and get to feel, to see, are you happy with this? Well, no, I'm not. Well, how do you want it to be? And they may not even know what to look for. They may just say, I don't like this, but I don't know what to move it to. And so then they can't move it.
Yeah. I think that you have to look at the emotional connection and not just the physical piece. I think that that there is some type of connection that are they staying there through the abuse. So what if it's not an emotional connection? You have to find the connection, because if you just confront the abuse, you're not going to really help them, lead the situation. So what is the connection that's keeping you there through the abuse? And then, like I said, have that communication as to why do you feel you need to be here? What's going on? As Red says, how are you contributing to this situation? How what is your plan moving forward? It can get to be such a complicated situation, but and so especially for someone who may be younger, you have to try to simplify it as much as possible for them to understand how to separate and how they can get away from that situation, or if someone is in a situation that feel that they, how can you get help, for both of them, you know, the person who's being abused or the person who's doing the abusing.
Well, I can tell you this is that with a lot of situations, I've been in a few, at least a counsel of few. That is, like you said, Byron, you have to find that connection. What is it? You didn't see it here. You don't know it there. What is that connection? What is their mindset? Now, there are some people who likes that bad boy or bad girl type. Yeah. And, you know, you want to try to lead them in the right way, but if you do it forcefully, then they'll run to it more. Yeah. So you got to find that spot or that divider that's connected to you, so that they could see that this is not right, that we were right, but also too, when they make their mistakes to stump their toe, you got to be there for them. You know that you got to kill badness with kindness, with love. And if you can do that, you can get through to them, and it can turn out to be a better thing. But it's got to be communication, and not the hard-handed way that, you know, we used to be raised in those days. Today's time is totally different. And if you say, no, don't do this, then that's the thing that they're going to do. You have to have a reason why it's not right and some examples to where they can see and also get counseling.
Yeah.
Right. And
gentlemen, are there any closing remarks?
Thank you, Chief. That's all I want to say, man. It's good seeing you. I missed you the last time I was home, but I want to see you again. The other thing is that each and every one of you guys, I want to say Happy Father's Day. God bless you, and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. Don't leave yet, Bull. Don't leave yet. In any other closing comments?
I just want to say, first of all, to all the gentlemen here, Happy Father's Day. You know, it was funny because when Boss Man, you know, I said that before, you know, invited me to join in, you know, of course, I'm never going to tell him no. You know, even when I was an assistant and under his internship, you know, there's a lot of things he would do I didn't understand. I just went with it, you know, because he has a method to his madness. And, you know, and I'm a researcher, you know, I'm wrapping up my PhD. So I did look you gentlemen up, and I looked and I was a little like, oh, wait a minute now. I said, Reg's got a company doing this. I said, Roland Harper. I said, hey. I said, what am I bringing to the table? So I know I was like, Boss Man, hey, what's the agenda? What I'm supposed to do? I mean, you know, how do I fit in? But, you know, I have to say in the end, I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, the wisdom and insight that you even gave me, you know, I really appreciate being, you know, part of this table, part of this panel, you know, and hopefully, you know, I provided something that will help others, you know, who are listening to us, you know, around the world. So I say, God bless you all, you know, and I wish everyone well.
Thank you.
Reg?
Melvin, your messaging is always on point. I love seeing your posts when I see you on LinkedIn, and I love these conversations, and I'm always happy to be part of it. And gentlemen, I wish you all Happy Father's Day, and all you gentlemen live in America, please stay safe, wear your masks, and be safe.
Yeah.
Well, let me say, first of all, to our audience, you guys have been blessed to have three fantastic gentlemen on this platform tonight. And, you know, I know a lot of you are sports fans, and you should be. And Roland Harper, I can't get off this broadcast without telling people is that Roland Harper is my good luck fishing charm. The only time I actually catch fish is when I go with Roland Harper. So you guys need to know that. Great man, great person. And gentlemen, I know we have quite a few people on the monitors, and if someone wanted to contact you or ask you more questions, if you are amenable, would you like to give them an email address, or you may just want them to go to a social media site or something like that?
I don't have a media site. It's only me.
Okay.
Only me.
I hear you.
Well, only thing I have is, you know, anyone who wants to answer me any kind of questions, you know, my Yahoo account is I think it's public, but it's just my name, Lyons, Lyons _ Byron, BYRON at yahoo.com.
Okay. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I have my email address on there as well. If you want to throw any questions my way, I'm always happy to help.
Okay, guys, and as you know, I'm your host, Melvin Casey Lars. You guys know how to contact me at the Nobody Asked Me Guy Show at gmail.com. And we encourage you to go to our YouTube site and like our YouTube and also hit that bell. Listen, it's been great. We're glad you're here. And the thumbs up were tremendous. We appreciate your hearts. And I know some of you were trying to have questions. I do need to say to our panel is that I had some individuals trying to ask you questions, but I can't see the questions clearly. So I didn't want to butcher that. And so listen, it's been great. And we thank each and every one of you for being here. Week after next, on the 27th, we will have Brother Harper. We'll have another one of our former teammates. We're going to have Big Fred Dillon on talking about being a Hall of Famer. And he's supposed to bring another one. He wasn't our teammate, but he's also a Bulldog. He's a Hall of Famer as well. So he's supposed to be joining us. And also Doug Williams. So we wrapping up another show.
Good night. Yeah.